Good morning, and welcome to the Live at the Waterhole show this morning, Sunday, the 3rd of September. You have Steph Winterboer with you for the next couple of hours, and we're immediately joined by a large bull elephant at the Okakwea Waterhole in Etosha National Park. Weather there looks fantastic. The weather where I'm sitting here in Hoedspruit, just on the borders of the Kruger National Park, on the opposite end of the continent, is about the same. A little bit more cloud where I'm standing now, but probably about the same temperature. Isn't this guy just magnificent? Large, full-grown bull elephant. And I'm making that assessment just based on his just overall body. You can see how big and healthy he looks, thick in his trunk, his skull. Even his ears look relatively small compared to his body. He's in great shape, this guy. But while he's giving us a small respite, why don't we go and have a look at the weather at the other locations today? Hot day expected everywhere, which is really great. So in the upper 90s, sort of 30s to mid 30s, which is fairly common in Africa, especially south of the equator, south of the Zambezi River. In fact, the temperature differences can swing quite dramatically, more than you think, actually. When you come on safari, lots of tourists are actually caught out by the temperature swings. There's usually about a 20-degree centigrade temperature swing between nighttime and daytime. And very often in winter will go below freezing. But it is a rare occurrence to get snow. So what this bull elephant is doing is, it looks like he's just made his way to the inlet of this particular pan, and where the freshest water will be. And let's see how long he takes to slake his thirst. Big bull elephant like us will drink about 200 liters of water a day. So what's that about? Divided by 5 to get the gallons. Let's do that for you quickly. Let's see. So 52 gallons is 200 liters. And they will drink most of that in a single sitting. And so I'm expecting that this bull elephant will probably spend some time around here. I don't know how long he's been around the dam this morning. We have the ever-present springbuck. So 50, you say that this is an impressive bull. It absolutely is. He is a great-looking guy. You know, it's often where elephants, they look, I don't know, they look out of proportion to me. Either their skulls are too big, or they're a bit skinny, or they're very tall and rangy. But this guy looks like he's very healthy. Thick-set, great-looking body. Not the biggest tusks, but I think it is relative. I actually think if you were standing next to him, those tusks are actually bigger than they seem. Male elephant have a way of dwarfing everything around them with their size. And I think even if we were parked in a vehicle next to this elephant, I think he'd make us all feel small. Excuse my rather croaky voice. I've got some change of season flu that I'm battling with, but it's all under control and I feel good this morning actually. Now, you might not think that there's much vegetation out here to keep these elephants well fed, and you would be right in a sense. The carrying capacity of Etosha for elephant is not that high. For instance, you'll find a lot more elephant in the Kruger, or you'll find a lot more elephant in Old Donyo per square kilometer than what you do in Etosha. It's simply just the biomass of animals that a desert like this can sustain is lower. But this particular elephant will find all the food that he needs in the forest fringes that you see in the back of the pan there. In particular, this time of the year, elephant shift their diet from being predominantly grasses in summertime to predominantly leaves, twigs, bark, roots, branches even of trees and shrubs in wintertime. And we're just coming out of the winter now. We're in the driest part of the year, so it's hot, as you saw from that weather report. But the rains haven't come yet, and so the grasses haven't germinated yet. And so this elephant's diet to be made up mainly of sticks and leaves and bark and roots and all that sort of stuff, as mentioned. And although he'd need to feed a lot longer during the day, so he's going to be eating anywhere from sort of 18 to 22 hours a day at the moment, he definitely will find enough nutrition in that to feed himself. And then by November, December time, once the rains have come and the grass is flushed out, then their diets swing and you find them eating grass and then standing in the heat of the day, standing in the shade and just relaxing, sleeping even, because their bellies are full. Now, for those of you who wondered how our viewer asked a question, you are also able to ask questions and you're also able to send through your comments. You're welcome to go and register on the WildEarth website, and it'll then allow you to access the question strap or the bars, and you can send through a question. It would be great to hear from you this morning. Let us know if you're a new viewer as well and what you think of the show. And no question is a bad question. We're all here to learn from one another, and even as I was shown yesterday, there's even after 25 years, there's an old dog can learn some new things. So, ask away. All right, so we've just been asked if crocodiles bite elephants' trunks by Kate when they're busy drinking, and they 100% do actually. Um, it's not uncommon every year to find some photo floating around from some random wilderness place in Africa, um, with elephants thrashing a crocodile around after a baby's trunk being bitten, or a female elephant's trunk being bitten, or a male elephant thrashing a crocodile around. And so, while I've never seen it personally, Kate, it definitely does happen. I think it's quite rare. I think that crocodiles, although can probably be quite instinctive when the water's murky and they're lying in ambush and they can't see anything, and all of a sudden a bite-sized trunk comes within grasping range of their. They've got these sensory organs on their snouts, which allow them to sense when things are close, fish in particular, and they strike sideways. And I think that that's probably what happens. I don't think that they're hunting elephant. I think that it's mostly instinctive and reactionary to a sensory stimuli that comes in from through murky water, and it almost always ends bad for the crocodile. Elephants are very protective, and when hyped up, are quite aggressive. And I don't think that there is much out in this wilderness that can actually survive a full-on attack by an elephant.
Have you ever wondered what it's like to capture a snapshot of wildlife in its magnificence? Our naturalist, James Henry, has spent his life creating memories through the lens, and he wants to share them with you.
From the sublime to the ridiculous, everybody.
Join James for a photography hangout where he will entertain you with safari stories through some of his best photographs and color grade them live. Come along for the fun. Wild Earth, it's in your nature.
It just looks like this elephant is just relaxing next to this body of water. I think one of the benefits of these cameras that we have all over Africa is that we skip and change. We go from one to another, and we go from wet areas to dry areas. We forget that this elephant is inside Etosha, and Etosha's in one of the driest areas in Africa, and that a large body of water like this is probably an uncommon sight for this particular animal. And I think it would be great to just ground ourselves in the fact that he's probably marveling at this patch of open water. I know if I came wandering out of Etosha's salt pans, I would also marvel at water that's this big. Probably get in and have a swim. A lot clearer today, so it looks like the wind has died down. No wind at the moment, which is really nice. But still very dry and dusty. I actually think that this is one of the biggest elephant that I've seen in Etosha, actually. I don't think there are too many elephants in Etosha. I'm going to see if through the course of the show I can find out what the latest censuses are. But gosh, he's in fantastic shape. Another place that's been giving us great elephant sightings is in Kenya at Old Donyo. So why don't we go and have a visit there this morning? Aha, they're not disappointed at all. This is Africam's Old Donyo Cam. This is in Kenya. And what it looks like we have here is also 3 bull elephant. One with a very characteristically deformed tusk. You can see his tusk is downturned and is more like a fang than it is a tusk. And with that cut in his ear, I actually think that we've seen this elephant before. And just look at what they're doing. They're having a bath. This is the second time we've seen the elephant have a bath actually at Old Donyo, or at least me. You may have seen it with other naturalists. And you'll notice how particular they are at wetting themselves behind the ears. Just to cool them down, they wet their flanks, sucking in the water. And it's because it's fairly hot there today. That elephant on the right has got a magnificent pair of tusks. Very thick at the base, evenly shaped, nice, symmetrical curve. Whereas this guy with his funky tusk on the left-hand side, it's pretty weird. I'm sure that he's learned how to use it to great effect, probably. But it definitely isn't typical. The 2 youngsters on the left, and they've probably joined this old bull on the right for some companionship. Having left their natal herds a few years ago now, they don't look like they're in their teens, but they don't look like they're in their late 20s either. And what happens is their urges to want to mate, so the magnitude of the must that they go into is to some degree or another, I can't remember the word now, but to some degree or another is lessened by the presence of large dominant bull elephant in their areas. So if they weren't adult bulls in their late 30s, 40s to mid 40s in an area with these youngsters, then they would have a lot. The magnitude of their must periods, which is their heightened sexual activity, would be far greater than when you have large bulls in an area. And you find that because of that, this elephant, this older one on the right, who's just through sheer age, I'm assuming that his magnitudes of his must periods are not as high or as great anymore. And so there's no real antagonism between the two, and so why not hang around together? Companionship for the old guy and someone to learn from for the youngsters. Eleanor, you just sent through a comment. So firstly, good morning to you, Eleanor. Hopefully you're having a good day or night, wherever you are in the world. And you say that the views from here are so amazing. I agree with you. This particular camera is just really productive and gives us such a great sort of, I suppose it's lower than what it would be if it's a bird's eye view. And no, is that no? It's not a bird's eye view. What is it? I don't even know the term. Or when it's close to the ground. And it's just so amazing to be able to watch. But not just that, also be able to watch what these animals would be doing. They wouldn't be this relaxed if there were people around. And so for me, being able to watch these elephants behaving as they would be without people there is just a total privilege. This elephant on the left with that fang tusk. It's quite intriguing. I wonder if it gets in the way when he's running, or he'd have to run with his head up so as not to kick it and do himself some injury. And I see that it's rather blunt on the end, so it's being worn down somehow. So he is using it in some way or another. Quite cool to be able to follow that elephant and try and figure out exactly how he's managed to learn how to use that tusk. Could have been the deformity that he was born with, or the tusk bed could have been damaged when he was young. It's quite tough to say.
Do you want to touch the lives of future protectors of our Earth? Thanks to our wonderful WildEarth explorers, WildEarth Kids is back. Sign your class up for WildEarth schools and enjoy a special virtual field trip to Africa with interactive learning tailored for kids.
Very warm welcome to the kids from WildEarth Primary School.
We'll be dedicating the first hour of sunset safaris every Wednesday to our planet's future defenders. WildEarth, it's in your nature.
This old elephant on the right, he's not going to care much for these eland, I don't think. But these youngsters on the left, quite often you'll see young elephant chasing around other species, and particularly at water. And I haven't quite figured out why yet. I mean, it looks like they're having a lot of fun. It looks like they're just sort of reveling in their magnificence. You know, they're bigger than everything else. And as a young bull elephant that's working on their confidence, I would imagine that chasing around animals gives you a sense of power. But you can just watch the almost you could almost see the thought process that go through a young elephant's mind. I wonder if this guy at the back with his skewed tusk is getting mischievous here and wanting to come and cause some problems with his eland. Of course, oh, here we go, another eland coming in. It's unlikely that the elephant will do any harm to them. The resources are abundant at the moment, but it is not uncommon to hear of the fact that elephant will kill other species of animals when resources are poor and they're under some stress. These are female eland, female Patterson's eland, as opposed to the 3 male elephant that we have, or bull elephant that we have. And these eland only occur here. We don't find them occurring anywhere else. At any of our other camps, we won't find them, for instance, in South Africa. Where you do find the Cape eland, like Etosha, for instance. Very rarely do we see eland at any of our cameras in the Kruger, or the Greater Kruger area. They're a slightly different color as well. They don't have that beautiful stripe on the shoulder. Jenny, you'd like to know how long the average elephant's trunk is. Gosh, Jenny, it's going to require me to do. I don't know the exact answer, so let me just get that right out. Get that right out there. But very willing to discuss what I think, at least, anyway. So a big bull elephant, like you're looking at on the right-hand side there, will stand 3.5 meters tall at his shoulder. So let's take off 0.5 meter, so 3 meters for when his trunk starts. You're looking at a 3-meter drop from where the trunk starts to his feet, and then they can extend it. Like you're looking at that elephant now, you can see both of them are extending it below the level of their feet by, I would say, another 0.5 meter. So let's say a big male elephant's trunk can go 3.5 meters, maybe at a stretch 4 meters long, and then female elephants are about half the size, and so it won't quite be half. I would say on average for adults, anywhere from 2.5 meters to 3.5 meters would be my guess. So times that by 3 to get feet. So we're looking at about, I don't know, 12 foot. So a fairly large organ, to be honest with you. And to give you an idea, I could probably walk underneath this big elephant's front legs. What are you doing here? And I'm 6'2", I think. Great question there, Jenny. Well done. You can see the two bigger elephants have sort of dominated the inlet pipes. Actually, I think there's 2 inlet pipes into this little man-made pan. We often see elephant there where this one's got his trunk, and then every now and again we have elephant clustering around the inlet on the far right. And 3 big bulls like this would empty this pan. We are in Kenya's dry period now, so they have 2 wet seasons and 2 dry seasons. This is the long dry season now. and it'll come to an end around November, December. Because they're on the equator here, you're only a couple of kilometers away from the equator. There's no winter and summer, just a wet and a dry period. Not the same in Etosha. There we're far south of the equator, and definitely not the same in South Africa, where we're even further south of the equator. We definitely do have seasons, but these guys won't know what that is. In fact, the weather in Kenya is perfect for safari. Year round, it is just absolutely great weather. Gets a bit wet sometimes, and the storms are spectacular, but they're all part of the fun. Heidi, I must agree with you completely. It's a fantastic sighting this morning. They're giving us a good long time of being able to watch what they're doing around the pan. You can hear them sucking the water up and blowing it out. It's a great weather day. And just seeing these two youngsters sort of interacting with one another, you see how they're leaning on each other. It reminds me so much of my kids. It's always just a dominance thing. You need to be first through the door, or have the biggest slice of this, or the fullest glass of that. It's just so great to see. It's all just the games that boys need to play, obviously. And then the more I look at this elephant on the right, the more I actually like his tusks. I'm definitely one for symmetry when it comes down to elephant tusks, and so I find the more symmetrical and evenly shaped the tusks are, the better the aesthetics for me. When I first saw him this morning, I was like, nah, it's a little bit too pinched. The ends are a little bit too pinched for what I like. But the more I'm looking at him, the more intrigued I am by the shape of his tusks. Some of you might be thinking, no, but the guy with the deformity on the left-hand side, it's a much more intriguing tusk shape, that fang that he's got. And then, of course, there's this funny shape. He's got like a ridge going down the tusk and then a notch at the end, which I'm assuming he's using when he's feeding. The feeding notch is quite common. You'll see the big elephant on the right, you'll see he's got a feeding notch at the tip of his trunk. It's like a white ring that you can see. And what he'll do is he'll use, very dexterously, he'll use the tip of his tusk and his trunk. What's happening here? Okay, so something's coming. You can just see that head up, ears out. And the guy with the fang, he just made distance. No, it's a giraffe. It's just amazing. These cameras are just... Oh, he's now looking at the giraffe. Africa's largest land mammal, or the world's largest land mammal, with the world's tallest land mammal. There you go. Head shake. That's a Maasai giraffe and an African savanna elephant, as opposed to the more common giraffe we see south, and the forest elephant, which you'd get further west of these guys, in the forests of equatorial Africa. Yes, but this giraffe gave that other guy with a fang a proper fright. He just skedaddled straight out of the picture. Gone. I mean, with the heat that we've got, for the heat that we have forecast for today, I'm assuming that we're going to have quite a lot of animals come down to the various cameras. And if anything like yesterday, we're going to have a lot of elephant as well. And so I've got a challenge for all of you out there. See if you can send through your feedback on how many toes you can count on an elephant. Yes, an elephant have toes. You can see this guy on the right, his back legs, there's toenails. They're not toes like ours. Their toes are encased in their feet, but count and see if you can count how many toes and how many fingers. And I say that with inverted commas, right? Because it's just how many toenails they got in their front legs and how many toenails they got in their back legs. Send through your feedback to our comments, and we'll read out what you give feedback on through the course of the show. And of course, it's going to be a challenge to watch the show and see when you can count. And there is a trick, by the way. So there is a catch. So don't think that the most obvious answer is there. If you don't know how to send in your comments, you just have to go and register on the WildEarth website, and you can give your comments this morning. Similarly to that enormous bull elephant we saw in Etosha, I actually think that these two elephants are probably the same size. The one that we saw in Etosha now and this one. Look at this giraffe coming right in front of the camera. Goodness me. Also a bull giraffe. And we'll come down and drink now. Amazing, eh? Very vulnerable when they go down, because you can see being so tall and being so short, relatively speaking, in body, it doesn't leave them much flexibility. Oh, no. Not a comfortable spot. Deciding that he needs to go somewhere else. We have some zebra coming in. This big guy has decided that he wants to come and drink from the other pipe. We're pushing this youngster away. There's quite a lot of zebra coming out to the pan now. We've been counting anywhere sort of between 13 and 20 zebra per herd that have been coming in. If you can count how many there are, I don't think these elephants are going to go anywhere. Gosh, another zebra. I mean, this giraffe is now bent down, and you can see how angled that hoof is on these rocks. Definitely not a stable platform for him to be drinking in. So Melanie, you've given your first comment about how many toes you can see, and you said you can see 4 toes on the back leg of the elephant on the right. So firstly, good morning, Melanie, and then thank you. Let's wait for a few more feedbacks to come back, and I'll disclose how many they have. But great observation there, Melanie. It's a fairly large herd of zebra coming in. Now here comes our Fang back again. See if he's regained his confidence yet, or if he's going to be chasing around the zebra. They tend to stand on the outskirts and wait, and then all of a sudden rush in, and then it's a free-for-all. Goodness me. There's an oryx there as well. You can see the sort of tan-colored antelope. Isn't that elephant with the fang? He isn't having none of this. He just wants to chase the zebra away. Doesn't like all the hustle and bustle. And that giraffe is finished with his drink. The zebra are just going to come in and just have a drink now. And you'll watch, it'll just be an endless flood of zebra now. They're just going to come in and just take over. Usually these elephants stick around, but probably find that there's just a bit too much movement at the moment. This is one of the largest herds of zebra that we've seen, or you'll see. You may have seen larger. I'm trying to count them at the moment. I'm counting around 31, 32 zebra, 33. So definitely the largest herd that I've counted around this camera since I've started to watch it. Zebra definitely do form part of the Great Migration in East Africa. You're all familiar, or have heard possibly in passing of the huge wildebeest migration, the 1,000-mile annual journey that wildebeest and zebra view from the southern plains in the Serengeti around Mbiti to the Masai Mara in Kenya. And of course, we've all seen footage of the crocodiles in the Mara River and the Grumeti rivers, forming a formidable foe for these animals crossing and recrossing the river. These zebra are probably sedentary, though. I don't know much about the movements of zebra and wildebeest in this part of Kenya, but the migration is at the moment sort of on the Tanzania and Kenya border, and will be moving slowly back to the Mbutu area to around December time, following the rain south. I'm imagining that that the zebra in these areas here pretty much year round, with a little bit of local movement depending on where the grass is best. Oryx that you see standing from the right are the fringe-eared oryx. Actually quite a rare subspecies of oryx, and limited to just this area. Melanie, you wanted to know if this herd of zebra will all stay together for grazing. That's a great question, Melanie. And so inside this herd, you're going to have subherds. You're going to have male stallions that cut out females for their harems, and will only be able to sort of maintain. Gosh, look at the zebra in the middle. I'll get back to your question now, Melanie. He's got such a rake mark on his bone. The one walking off screen now, that looks like lion. It's a claw mark from a lion, looks like. And a bite mark from a lion. Goodness me, what the claw. A narrow escape to that zebra last night, or the night before. Gosh, all right, so back to your question, Melanie. So within this particular herd, you'll find that there'll be a few full-grown stallions, and they will have their females with them. And the number of females that a stallion has will vary from time to time, depending on how sort of strong he is and how strong rivals are at any given moment. So the herd in general will stay together plus minus, but the composition of that herd will change over time. And of course, there's natural attrition as well, as you saw from the claw bite mark on that zebra's bum, that there definitely are large predators here. And of course, crossing any permanent water here, like a river in this particular area, carries with the risk of not only drownings, which occur frequently in these rivers, but also crocodiles. See the horns of those. Welcome. All right, what was that? So straight back to the water. It obviously wasn't a lion. something else gave them a fright, and it could have just been one that panicked, and panic spreads like wildfire through a herd. But as you said, this is quite a nice mix of wild four-leggeds. It is an interesting choice of words there. Definitely is. Yesterday we seemed to have all the eland come down, and only a few zebra, relatively speaking. Today it's just the zebra fest. Such great conditions. They always look like they're in great conditions. Feisty as well. You can see a lot of them. They're having their little squabbles. Females will have squabbles with each other. So younger females in a harem will often get bullied by the older females. And then male stallions kick and bite at one another as well, as they vie for dominance and hierarchy and standing within the herd. And of course showing off to all the girls. And then males will also herd females from one harem into another, and that takes a little bit of effort as well. And so they chase each other around quite often. I just love their faces. Absolutely incredible animal, to be honest with you. Just from a visual, they're just so visually appealing. Definitely having an impact on the level of the water here. And between the elephants and the zebra, there's not going to be much left. Amazing how quickly they can clear a place, right? Straight back into the water again, first driving in. But yeah, I'm battling with the same question that you've just asked now. What's causing them to be so startled? It could be any number of things, Billy, to be honest with you. I know that there's a hide close by here, and perhaps there's people in the hide, but you would have heard that on your side if that was the case. Perhaps there's a car close by, or someone's doing some work. If it was a lion or leopard or something like that rushing out of the grass, they would have made alarm calls in that area. So I think it's something startling them that they can't really see. A big noise or maybe something in the distance. It's a good question, that, Billy. I've been trying to figure that out myself and just trying to see or hear what's going on. You see these oryx have now come in a way, have almost pushed the zebra to this side of the pan. Those horns of theirs are super sharp. And by sharp, I mean sharp enough to pierce your skin if you would push hard enough on them with your finger. In particular, the females, which was, with the exception of the one on the far right, I think they're all females, and perhaps that one sort of just left off center. Looks like it's got shorter, stubbier horns. That's pretty typical of a male. But this one coming down to drink, for instance, is a female. You can see their horns are long and straight. Formidable. There we go. This is a bull. Definitely. The one that's coming from the right, you can just see not only is the protuberance on its belly quite evident at this angle, but you can also see, relatively speaking, how much more robust his horns are. They will actually fight with one another when two males of the same size. Let's see, this zebra is being pretty brave, walking off there in the direction of the disturbance. Now, Billy, I want to say that it's probably something in the local area, but it's not something on the edge of the water here that's giving them a fright.
Not everyone gets excited to hear a leopard chuff, spot a pangolin, or see a real impala rut. But if you are wild about the wild, you can become part of a community of like-minded nature lovers and share authentic wildlife experiences with the world. Join the Explorers Club and you will also enjoy the many benefits that come with it too. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature.
What have we got here? This is something that we haven't seen on camera often. This is a gazelle of some sort. I'm going to say it's a Thompson's gazelle. And we just briefly saw it. The gazelles as a group of antelope are actually quite varied. And in an area as special as this, where you have, for instance, these fringe-eared oryx, which don't occur in very many places whatsoever, I'm reluctant to want to just blurt out that that was a Thompson's gazelle, even though it looked very similar to one. I'm going to figure out if indeed that was one. So you get the Thompsons and then you get the Grant's gazelle. With the Grant's gazelle in this area as well. All right, so I think that this definitely, what we saw there definitely was a Thompson's gazelle. The Thompson's gazelle have got that stripe down the side of their body where the Grant's gazelle doesn't. And the Grant's gazelle is also a little bit bigger. So definitely, from what I can see, it definitely was a Thompson's gazelle, and they are fairly common. I've seen them up in the Masai Mara in relatively large numbers. They look very similar to the springbuck that you see in Etosha, in Madikwe. Interesting brief view of that. Right. So why don't we give this particular scene time to reset itself and see what else comes down? And why don't we head south and see what else is around? Aha. So we're in Madikwe. This is Africam Tau Lodge's camera. And what we're looking at here is a herd of hartebeest, a warthog, sort of central. We're looking in the back, we're looking at a whole herd of blue wildebeest. And right in the foreground, we've got two crocodiles. What a great scene. There's layers of animals. Yesterday there was some lion here. And this particular pan has a mud wallow off on the right hand side, which elephant have been swimming in. Let's have a look at these hartebeest. It's not something that you see often. It's not a very common antelope. Definitely not as common as the zebra or eland or even the oryx that we were looking at. Let's see where they get their name hartebeest from. Their horns, the shape of their horns when they're looking face onto you. Similar to the wildebeest in the background. It's an antelope species that is particularly well suited to moving vast distances at a relatively high speed. Very, very fast antelope. That warthog, he just doesn't look like he's in the best condition. They do battle, unfortunately, when the season comes to an end like this. The dry season is coming to an end, I should say. Not that much grass around. Let's see if this warthog goes and has a wallow. There's a good chance. It doesn't look like he's been in the mud yet. It's a good chance he goes and has a. No, he's busy walking away. Definitely would be food for a crocodile. This crocodile in the foreground is easily big enough to take out a warthog like that. There's another crocodile's tail, so you've got three crocodile here actually, sunning themselves. Some springbuck top left corner. Yep. Gosh, not hard to beast. Skedaddling out of there. Didn't drink very much at all. I wonder what else is coming. These pans are so active at this time of the year. It's actually, you don't quite know where to look. Some white-faced duck now in the center bottom. Some blacksmith lapwing coming in to the center of the screen at the bottom. And some wildebeest having a rest in a sand bath. It's coming to that time of the year where they'll just be hanging around in these open plains, prioritizing staying hydrated and not spending energy over marching massive distances for dwindling food reserves. The same can't be said for the hartebeest. They will still be walking quite long distances to go and find food. All right, that was a great view of these hartebeests. Actually, quite nice to see. Why don't we go and have a look at King's Camp and see what's happening around there? So now we've come west a couple of 100 kilometers, and we've got a common giraffe, not the same as the Maasai giraffe that we were having a look at just a little while ago up at Old Donyo. We're in the Greater Kruger National Park now. So right on the east coast of Africa, in South Africa. Probably the crow flies about 150 kilometers or so from there to the sea, the Indian Ocean. Whereas we were about 200 kilometers away from the Atlantic Ocean when we were at Etosha. And in Madikwe, we were sort of right in the center of South Africa, in the middle of the continent, about 700 or 800 kilometers from where we are now. This is another bull giraffe. Great markings. He's got such clear patterns. That I haven't noticed in recent times are these bald patches that they get on their skin. They get affected by a particular type of skin mite, and some years almost all large giraffes carry these massive lesions on their bodies. I think it's just when their systems are down or when there's some pressure. So I noticed that if I think back now, I noticed a lot of it during the 2016 drought. A massive drought for a couple of years, and it's sort of been getting wetter since then to now. And this area has seen 2 years of really, really decent rain. In fact, in February of this year, this area where we are now around King's Camp was inaccessible. You couldn't get into it. and many people were not stranded, but for a couple of days couldn't move out of where they were. The roads were washed away. So the bush has been really good, and I think what we're seeing is just the lack of those skin lesions is as a direct sort of evidence to these animals being relatively healthy. You can see how good the bush is looking at in the background there. It looks to be a fever tree, or a fig tree at least, that yellow barked tree in the background on the right hand side. One of the bonuses of having all these cameras all over the place is that we have the choice of bumping around from one to another. And while this giraffe makes its way off, why don't we go and have a look at another camera in this particular area? This is about 60 kilometers or so north of where we were, also in the Greater Kruger National Park and Olifants West Game Reserve. And this is Cat Eye Pan. And what we have become to be fairly common with is this terrapin that crawls out onto this beach and suns himself around this time of the day. This is the third or fourth time that we're seeing him. I'm assuming it's the same one. It's the same size, same habit of climbing out. And then, of course, what is remaining a mystery for me is how it gets its particular mud coating. This is the second time that I've noticed this fresh mud coating on his shell, which goes over the top of his shell, but doesn't extend all the way across. So it's not like he's crawled through mud. And I don't quite know why he gets this particular pattern. I'm assuming that mud was deposited there through the night or early morning, just judging from how shiny it is. And it looks smeared, so it looks like, the top of the shell, the mud on the top of the shell looks like it's been smeared slightly, so like he's crawled through some vegetation. But I'm at a loss to decide exactly where he's getting this particular mud from, why it's not coated evenly across his shell, or just on the top, or just on the front, which is bizarre.
Discover the wonders of the wild with Safari Snaps, Africam's fun community game. While enjoying the live streams, simply tag the animal you spot. Each tag earns you points based on the rarity of the species. The rarer, the more points you score. Your profile and the Safari Snaps leaderboard will keep track of your impressive tagging skills. Join us on Safari Snaps and let's celebrate the wonders of African wildlife together.
There's a slight ripple on the water. I don't think it's a breeze blowing. I actually think that there's probably something disturbing the water off on the left-hand side. You can see the ripples there. Very calm day today. I'm sitting about, I don't know, 40 miles or so from this camera, a little bit further south. And it's a beautiful day. A bit hazy, it's a bit overcast, but nevertheless, a glorious spring day. Quite a unique eye color on this terrapin. I've never really noticed that they have a sort of orangey yellow eye. Like I said, these cameras are just so fantastic, allowing us such a close view of an animal that is generally quite shy. You don't see them like this very often. And if you do, it's always from a great distance. Interestingly, we were just watching. Well, we were looking for the cause of some ripples on the water surface. I actually thought that there was something that was moving. And you probably find that there's definitely a lack of any large mammals. The presence of elephant is there. Those round dustbin-shaped depressions you can see in the foreground. Those are the tracks of an elephant that has come past. So there's been an elephant walk through here. There's nothing else except for this terrapin here. I think that the ripples that we see are then most probably caused by other terrapins moving around in the water. It would surprise me if he was the only one here, although we only ever really see this one. That water looks not so delicious. Look like the tracks of two elephant, excuse me, that had come down to drink. There you can see the ripples there. There might be fish as well, actually. And we get the sharp-toothed catfish that is quite common in these dams and pans, and will, as they start to dry up, they'll start to concentrate in these muddy pools. And it's often then when we get congregations of yellow-billed storks and even leopards sometimes fishing at these pans, with fish eagles as well. I think maybe the level of this water is just low enough for us to see the movement of these catfish probably under the surface. I'm looking for the telltale sign of a terrapin's beak poking up through the murky water, but I don't see it, so that's what's leading me to believe that it's probably some fish that we're looking at. And then the intrigue of where these elephant are. Alright, let's leave this terrapin to its sun tanning and go back 5,000 miles north to Old Donyo to go and see what the scene looks like there. And just as we expected, the scene has changed, and where we had 30 plus zebra a little bit earlier, we now have 3 different elephant to the ones that were here a little bit earlier, and explain why I think it's that now. Some zebra and some giraffe. Oh, 4 elephant. Goodness me. 4 elephant. Just like that 4,000 tons can hide. So you can see that these elephants are carrying some distinctive ivory. That fang-shaped elephant, or the fang-shaped tusks that we saw on the one elephant, and then very symmetrical big tusks of the old boy that was here just now, has been replaced by another two really large elephant. One with a shattered tusk on the left-hand side, and then two youngsters. This elephant that's closest to us on the right is also relatively big. Big in body, thick in his midriff, big skull. And then that old guy who's had some bad luck with his tusks, it seems. Tusks is shattered off. It could have happened anyway. It could have been, could have knocked it off in a fight. It could have broken off in a feeding. He could have been particularly, I suppose, enthusiastic, was getting some food at a point and broke his tusk off like that. It must have been super sore because the nerve would have been exposed in that tusk.
Those sounds just go straight through you.
The ears are in relatively good condition. The Lee we saw a little bit earlier had a great tear in his ear. What's happening here now? You can see when he turns around and, gosh, they're formidable things. It's actually thick, the tusks of this elephant standing in the water. Gosh. Spraying the water with such power. So great hearing all these noises from these elephants while they're busy having their bath. So we have 4 bull elephant at Africam's Old Donyo Cam up in Kenya, or in Kenya. And this morning the weather is fantastic up there, as it is over most of the locations actually. Quite warm already, looking at around about 80 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit, sort of 25 to 30 degrees centigrade at the moment. Not much wind at all. Kathy Lee, you've given a submission saying that you're counting 5 toes in the front and 4 on the back feet. Great observation there, Kathy Lee. So far, you and Melanie have gotten it right. There are 4 toes on the back and 5 toes on the front. And the trick was to see the 5th toe on the front foot. It's almost vestigial. You only notice it at very special angles on the front on the front foot of the elephant. A great observation there, Kathy Lee. Well done. And thank you very much for everyone. Again, just having sent in all that stuff. Looks like this giraffe wants to come in, and it's joined by a few more friends coming in out of the bushes on the left. It's quite a big game path there. We see a lot of animals coming out of that particular area. Animals will use game paths to and from water points. And in fact, if you're lost in the wilderness, it's one of the great ways to find water. Of course, water being essential for survival. If you lost out in these tracts of land, often water is a very scarce resource. And when you've got converging paths, game paths, then you know you're going toward water. If you've got diverging game paths, then you know you're moving away from water. It's a great way to find water is to just follow those game paths. But of course, you've got to be vigilant because lots of other things use game paths as well and set up ambushes adjacent to them. So a good trick is when you're following these game paths, always keep your head up and your senses sharp. Right, why don't we go and have a look at a camera that we haven't had a look at in today's show yet and head south to Djuma. Oh, amazing. What a special treat. You've got some elephants swimming. They love water. This is a breeding herd. So some females and their babies. Oh, and they just look at that. They just seem to take so much joy from swimming. Look at those youngsters having the best game ever. Completely submerged. Elephant can actually swim, and they've been known to be in quite deep water, swimming from place to place in Okavango Delta and in the Chobe River. You see them swimming all the time. But it's not that common in this particular part of Africa. There's not a lot of deep water. And so to see it at Djuma and to see it at in the Greater Kruger is actually quite a rare thing. Wow. All right, so we obviously had a gremlin with that camera. So coming to you from these wild and remote places all over Africa with a live and interactive video stream means that from time to time we do have these glitches. And of course, when we have those glitches, we just quickly fly off to another one of our cameras that is working. And in this particular case, we crossed the continent from east to west and went north up to upper country and have ended up in Etosha. This is a large national park in northern Namibia, very close to the Atlantic, well, not very close to the Atlantic Ocean, but closer to the Atlantic Ocean than we have been. And we've got a scene here with an African elephant as well that's just come out of the white expanse of this park's concrete fields and is very typical of the elephant in this particular area, these white colored elephant. And I've been mentioning the colors of these elephant, the expectation of the colors of these elephant as the dry season progresses. What happens is that water is concentrated into fewer and fewer places and the amount of animal activity increases. And what that does is it churns up all this white mud. And the elephant, of course, as you've seen, love to give themselves baths. And the elephant in Etosha give themselves baths with this white cement mud and end up turning white like this guy that you're seeing now, and is unique. You don't find white elephant in very many places in Africa. And I would imagine it actually helps the elephant significantly in these desert areas. I think that the reflection of the sun would be much higher with a white mud coating than it would be with a dark mud coating. I actually think it would do well. Also a full-grown bull elephant. This camera is a little bit further away from the pan than others, and so you don't get the full perspective on how giant that elephant actually is, but he's probably easily as big as the biggest bulls we've seen today. Right. We've had a slight glitch with that camera. Now we've moved south again to Jamala. It's just such a great thing having such an amazing array of options to choose from, frankly. And it does look like we're jumping around a bit, but I don't really mind. So we've got a warthog that's busy having a mud bath in the center of the screen. Oh, there he's just jumped up now. They don't like to wallow for long. They get eaten by things if they do. We've got an impala on the left-hand side. We've got some zebra and some wildebeest. Yesterday, there was just a never-ending procession of elephant around here. Literally just swamped with elephant. Today, not so much. And it's giving all the other animals some chance to slake their thirst and enjoy the mud. Madikwe is now a large game reserve in the center of South Africa, right up on the northern boundary with Botswana, so on the international border between South Africa and Botswana, and is home to a very wide array or a very large biodiversity. And as you can see, general game, which is impala and wildebeest and zebra, giraffe, the numbers are healthy. Tau Lodge, which is not too far from here, we even saw a herd of hartebeest this morning, along with some crocodile, some springbuck. There's warthog disappearing over the ridge at the sort of left-hand side, just above center left. Streams of zebra coming in to drink at what must be a very muddy puddle. Joanne, you say that you're amazed, or it's amazing seeing all this wildlife. I agree with you, actually, Joanne. But it isn't something that you're going to be seeing, even though these animals live here all the time. Not around Jamala, but in Madikwe, which is big. It's like 80,000 hectares. They will become more dispersed when the summer rains come and there's more open water available in puddles and in streamlets elsewhere in the reserve, and also areas where animals haven't been able to get to because of the lack of water that have green flushes will be better suited to these grazers. And so what happens is, now going into sort of hell month next month and in the tail end of the dry season, all these animals are starting to concentrate around the last available food resources and permanent water. And we're finding then like the apparent increase in herd size because of that is significant. And then as soon as the first rains come, everything sort of disappears and it becomes really difficult to see stuff. You still see zebra and you'll still see wildebeest, but they won't be in the numbers that we see there now. And where you might see 6 or 7 or 8 species around water, it might take you 2 or 3 days to see the same amount of species diversity in summertime. But for me, the best time of the year, without question, is January, February. I love the amount of life that's around because of it being summer. So everything from insects to reptiles and amphibians to birds, and plant biodiversity is just off the scale. And so there's a lot more to look at when you come in summertime. So visiting these reserves every month has a different pro and con about it. And definitely from a large game or large herbivore predator prey interaction point of view, like lions and hyena and cheetah and wild dog, anywhere now, September through October to the end of October is the action time in Africa. This is when you want to come out here and come and see action. But if you want diversity, then definitely January, February, and just sheer beauty has to be in May, for me at least anyway. Misty mornings and animals are starting to congregate. There's this sort of late summer peace around everything. Temperatures are really good, stable. You don't have thunderstorms and massive heat to deal with, and just an ever-present cloud of insects around you like you do in summertime. And it's not as freezing cold as it is in July, August. So yeah, it's interesting times.
Do you love relaxing at a waterhole with the sights and sounds of Africa all around you? Well, we have some really exciting news for you. From August 1st, Africam is joining forces with WildEarth to bring the majesty of Africa right into your living room with 9 incredible new waterhole cameras from across South Africa and Kenya. Get ready to embark on a new journey. This is Live at the Waterhole.
Zebra have a quite a distinctive digestive system. They've got their hindgut fermenters, and so don't ruminate like a wildebeest would, for instance. And so they share a very similar digestive system to a hippo, an elephant, a rhino, and a warthog and zebra. They all share the same sort of digestive system, which is capable of digesting large quantities of relatively poor quality grass. And it's that gives them their sort of round shape. They need a very long intestine to deal with all of that. And it does generate a lot of gas, and zebra are always bloated because of that. Let's go and have a look at Cat Eye Pan and see what our terrapin's up to. Oh, goodness me. So that's not a terrapin. That is obviously a bull elephant. And what a great view from so low down. Wow. For you birders out there, we've got some starlings. That's the bird on the left-hand side. And this elephant is just busy sucking up some water and having a drink. Goodness me, what a great view. quite short, stubby tusks. Looks like he's actually broken off one of them. I think that terrapin's probably disappeared into the mud. Have an elephant spraying water around willy-nilly like he is. Jenna, you've answered a great question. Do these animals use these water holes at much at night time? Jenna, they do actually, especially during the dry season now, where they're moving quite considerable distances between food and these few water places that are left with few permanent water sources. And so you'll find a general procession of animals that move through these water holes 24/7. Obviously, you have a greater likelihood of slightly different mix. So, you could expect to see hyena and lion and leopard visiting these water holes at night time more often than during the day. Not to say that you won't see it anyway, but more often during the day. But elephant are just one of those that sort of come and go 24/7. This guy's wasting so much water. Anyway, Jenna, good morning. Thank you for your question. I'm going to ask, he's taking all the effort to slurp up the water. He's drinking just a little bit and then spraying it out. I wonder if he's trying to clean his nose out or clean his trunk out. Maybe he's suffering from the same thing I am, which is a sort of spring day flu. I don't think he's a very old elephant, this. You can see he lacks the sort of massive skull. Yo, he's having a proper mud fling there. It's just so cool. Kicking up the mud in the bottom of the trough. What are you doing? You're making a mess. Gosh. Cleaning it out at least. What a sighting. This is just absolute class. So the trunks are amazing things. It takes quite a long time for these elephants to actually master. See what he's doing there. Looks like he was smelling something. It's very interesting. He'll actually puff it into his mouth. The scent that he's taken off the ground, he'll puff into his mouth. He doesn't look like he's that interested in what he smelt. Resting his trunk now. Scooping out some water. No, still smelling around. Something's got his interest there. Possibly the passing of another elephant or some other animal that visited here another time. Doesn't look like he's got something stuck in his trunk, eh? It's so cool. Almost like it's got a life of its own, these trunks. Eh? Aha, we've got a possible answer to why that terrapin is covered in mud in such a peculiar fashion. So one of our zoomies, which is a person, it's a name that we give to our operators of the cameras, has suggested that perhaps it's how that terrapin got that funny covering of mud on it was that it gets sprayed randomly by an elephant like this. It's about as good an explanation as any, to be honest with you. Yeah, he's standing with his ears up. That's usually a sign of a subconscious sign that he's aware of some disturbance in the area. And the next sign we look for is his tail. If he cocks his tail to the side, then we know that he seems pretty calm. See his tongue there, he just got the inside of his cheeks. And they've got a very thick tongue that they use to draw vegetation into their molars, which sort of sit at the back of their skull, underneath their eye almost. Gosh, he's a big boy, eh? See if he's going to pick up some sand and have a bit of a sand bath as well, or if he's just going to carry on with his wanderings. To answer that question, he's just going to carry on with his wanderings. Probably spend most of the rest of the 24 hour or the next 24 hours feeding, depending on how much water he managed to drink. He's big enough to have that sort of 150 to 200 liters, 35 to 50 gallon. What's he doing there? Something is inside there. He's walking down into a depression there. There's a riverbed there, it seems like. We call it a drainage line in these particular areas, and maybe there's something lying up there. Lion, perhaps, leopard. Right, while we wait for whatever it is to decide if they're going to show itself or not, why don't we go and have a look at what's happening at Naledi? This is one of my favorite pans, actually. This is African Naledi. This is just a few kilometers away from where we were now at Katai Pan. And this well is now the home of a pair of Egyptian geese. Very common, fairly large goose that lives in this area. Very noisy. They make wonderful. I was going to use the word watchdog, but that would imply some sort of domestication, when that's not really the case at all. And there's a warthog. So we've got a warthog in the pan off on the left-hand side. Two. Let's go and have a look at them. They look like they're feeding on the grass that's growing inside the pan. And maybe we're lucky and they lie down and have a bit of a wallow. They're quite comical, actually, when you watch them wallowing around. They tend to love getting their backsides full of mud for some reason, and then almost always go and find a place to scratch off all the mud they've just applied. These two look like they're having a proper meal. And that's a female with her baby. That baby would have been born last November. She's fully pregnant now and will be having some more babies in the next couple of weeks. They give birth underground in burrows. And the baby piglets, stay hidden for a couple of weeks before coming out, and we'll start seeing them sort of mid-November to the end, beginning of December. Let's see if this is a female piglet. This female will stay with mom. It's not unusual for a mom to have multiple generations of warthog with her. Looking to see if it's a male or a female pig. It's a female. Female baby. Quite wary of what's around. Warthogs get eaten by a lot of different things, and so wary warthogs stay living for longer. Definitely found a great source of food here in this grass that's come up. Don't you just love her beard? She looks like she's just had it freshly hairdressed. My English departs me today. And her youngster's also got an equally impressive beard. Sideburn. And then she's got those fantastically curly tusks.
Did you know that the WildEarth team makes weekly behind the safari content? Would you like to get to know the WildEarth family better? See how we live.
This is Igor's bedroom.
Learn about our production process. And see the antics that happen off camera. Sign up to be an explorer and you will get access to all this content and more.
So similar to elephant, warthog have these tusks growing on the outside of their heads or their skulls, and quite impressive. And for me, at least, anyway, just very similar to elephant. The more symmetrical and beautifully shaped the tusks, the more I tend to like it. And so she has a really great set of tusks. You can see quite a nice curl to them, evenly spaced, parallel to one another, in line, not damaged in either way. And so she's a very beautiful warthog for me. You can see that very sharp tusk at the bottom. So they use that tusk to inflict damage, and they can be quite deadly when cornered or when injured. You don't want to get in the way of a warthog. Those bottom tusks are like blades. For those of you who are observant, you'll notice a beautifully colored blue bird off on the left-hand side, sort of at the snout of the warthog. That is a blue waxbill. I can't properly identify the bird with a greenish wing cover. It is beautiful nonetheless, but that powder blue color that we looked at there was very typical of a blue waxbill. And they build these great ball-shaped nests of grass that are almost always adjacent to a wasp nest. And those two have a symbiosis with one another. That was a firefinch. So a bird party, we call it a bird party when there's a whole bunch of different species of birds that are all in the same place at the same time. Birds tend to, well, at least these smaller types of birds tend to hang around together for safety's sake. Having a look at what's possibly coming about. Don't see anything. Just those geese. They're very vigilant. These warthog couldn't have better guards than those geese. They definitely will shout if they see a predator. But we're going to go over to Juma. It looks like we've got a few gremlins with this camera. So bringing you these visuals from some remote places in Africa. Every now and again, you have a glitch. It looked like we lost control of that camera. It just went on its own mission. Now we are at Juma. So we're still in the Greater Kruger National Park, and we're looking at a young bull elephant busy drinking at the side of Juma Pan here. So many elephant around today. Brings such great memories looking at this view. I've walked across that dam wall more times than I can count, and I have such great memories of all different sightings, leopard and lion, elephant, in and around this pan. The drainage line that flows away downstream from this particular location. One of my favorite trees in front of this elephant is the African cedar, or the tambuti. Great smelling wood, very finely grained, like dark reds and browns. I see this elephant's already had a bit of a bath and wet flanks testimony to that. Doesn't look like he's going to be sticking around for too long here. Tough to say what the Zilly's doing at the moment. Looks like he's just picking at some vegetation or something there on the bank. Very similar to the warthog. These elephants will be making the most of whatever available food source they can find. But he could also just be investigating a particularly interesting smell. Let's see what he does. It's going to be interesting. Decided against going for a swim. We were lucky enough to see a small herd of elephant with some babies having such a nice splash in this dam a little bit earlier. Completely submerged. This elephant doesn't look like he's anywhere near interested in going for a swim, unfortunately. There are some hippo here, actually. I think there's one that we can see off on the left-hand side there. And this elephant walking around the hippo. See, just in the shot on the left-hand side, there's a grey blob in the water with some, it looks to be hippo-like ears. Where is he walking off so fast to? Finished drinking and now off on his own mission. Coming right up to the camera. It's going to be super great. Deciding whether he should go left or right. There's a hippo moving off behind the elephant. It definitely was a hippo. Those hippo would spend most of the day in the water. They're quite sensitive to the sun, actually, and are nocturnal when it comes down to feeding, and so would be coming out to walk quite some distances at night. Oh, that's why he's a bit nervous. There's another elephant there that absolutely would answer that. Whole bunch of elephant coming down the road. Maybe we're lucky and we're going to get some swimming elephant anyway. See these elephants, they have these weird hierarchy issues. And this one causing this other one to move away. And you can see those females not wanting to engage. Bush looking very dry and in need of some rain. They're greeting each other, having a bit of a sniff. Quite an elaborate ritual. They actually might be part of the same herd. It's tough to know. I'm expecting that herd of elephant to come out of the bushes here on the left-hand side. Oh, what happened there? No, I had enough. Chase this youngster away. Got irritated with his proximity. There's the females coming now with their babies. They'll probably end up going to the same beach that this elephant did. It's a fairly large herd. faced with too many choices. Which do we stick with? Elephant herd or this elephant moving off to the pan?
Stay up to date with the latest happenings at WildEarth. Discover what goes on behind the scenes and get a weekly recap of the best moments on the channel.
He's got it! And he's straight up a tree!
Sign up to be an explorer and receive our newsletter written just for you and sent straight to your inbox every week. WildEarth Explorers, a club for people who are passionate about nature.
Thank you for joining us and have a fantastic morning.
I see we've been treated to this youngster having climbed straight into the water. Doesn't look like they can use their... You can use it. Epic. There you go. Boom. That is so cool. Let's see if this little one goes in and has a swim as well. So as you know, our mission is to connect the world with nature, and we are excited as David Wildthing has done it again and offered to match any donations done this weekend up to $5,000. So, gosh, David Wildthing, well done. WildEarth will be using this money to help upgrade some of our equipment and purchase 2 new Canon cameras. So to join in this initiative, please just pop onto our website and click donate, and it'll run until tonight, the PM safari tonight. And as always, will be very, very much appreciated. Gosh, we've got elephant now coming out of both ends of the dam and going for a swim. I think we're going to be treated to an absolute spectacle here. Look at these elephants. Underwater, submarining. proper swim, and they're probably going to have a game with each other. Isn't this just great? This is such a treat. Deep water like this is quite rare in this part of Africa, so seeing elephants swim is a privilege. This hippo just, you can see the one on the right hand side, moved off into the deeper water and just keeping out of the way. Gosh, look at this. Trunks up. Elephant loves swimming. Because they're wrestling with each other there. That little one sticking with his mom. Starbuck, you'd like to know if there's ever conflict when different herds meet. Gosh, Starbuck, that's a good question. You know, for me, the conflict comes when when a resource is poor, so over food or water generally, or space. And so in Etosha, for instance, I've seen many herds sort of stagger themselves, one herd coming in, the next herd leaving, drinking on different sides of the water. And every now and then you'll get a bit of a tussle. But generally, they're like you're seeing them now. They're very accommodating and patient with each other. And you can definitely see that that herd is different to the one on the right. It looks like 2 or 3 herds of elephant here that have converged at the same time. I mean, there might be some relation. You might find that the herds are just doing so well at the moment. The elephants are just doing so well at the moment that herds are fragmenting more and more, and that all of these elephants are related. I'm trying to think of the largest herd of elephant that I've seen in this area. Probably close on 80 to 100 individuals. Um, and this is pretty close to one of the largest conglomerations of elephants I've seen this season. Here's that male that walked into our shot first. He's now had a mud bath and is now coming to rejoin his family on the side. They're just giving each other a bit of a spray. So many babies. Beautiful cow elephant here, sort of second from left. Here's that hippo. Oops, gone. Isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing? It just as quickly as they come out of the bush, they disappear. And with their relatively large size and fast walk and grey colour, they melt into the bush. Such a privilege to see. So many elephant. Gosh. True to form, kids must play in the mud. Look at that little guy with a proper splash there on the left hand side. That is just so cool. A bit of just one of those unfortunate things gremlins do from time to time, creep into the system, and this is one of those times. Because we're in South Africa, and what we have is another herd of elephant. Definitely not with the abundance of water that we had at Juma. And we've got some warthog and we've got some impala. Some zebra. All clustered around where the fresh water is coming out. Scratch that. There he goes. Moves on. Quite a lot of activity coming around here. You can see that warthog's had his mud bath already. Plopped down basically onto his belly. Similar thing to what the elephants do. They cover themselves with mud, not only to dislodge parasites and just stay cool, but also to help keep their body temperatures down. It's hot out here today, man. Right, let's go and have a look at Naledi. Goodness me, what have we got here? We've got a bird of prey that's called a snake. Okay, let's see. Gosh, what a sighting. This is really rare. I'm trying to see what bird of prey. Obviously, the feet are not feathered. And with a brown color, I'm assuming that it's a snake eagle. Don't know what snake he's caught. That snake is definitely freshly caught. You can still see the nerves in the tail. Snakes do move for. Yes, and this bird is just gulping the snake down. So what I'm looking for now to determine what species of bird this is the color of the eye. So you get the brown snake eagle here, which is a fairly large eagle, easily this size, unfeathered legs, and has a bright yellow eye. So let's see. What a spectacle today. Goodness me. The bird obviously doesn't have teeth and is just swallowing a snake whole into its crop, which I'm finding astounding. A big snake like this could be moving around this time of the day. Black mamba? Tough to say with any certainty. Oh, and this bird has almost gulped that entire snake. And that was easily over 3 feet of snake gone. There. Almost done. I'm telling you, what luck we've got. It's amazing. So this bird would have landed, I think it's a brown snake eagle. We'll see, hopefully as soon as he turns around, he is going to be one full eagle, I'll tell you. Definitely no worrying about food for this bird today. Goodness. There we go. Yellow eye. Bright yellow eye. So this is a brown snake eagle. And obviously, as the name would suggest, comfortable catching snakes. He would have used his legs and his beak and his wings to kick and stab and pierce the snake to death, attacking the head, obviously, because that's the business end of the snake. And then, quite remarkably, before it could be stolen from him by another predator, he's gobbled the entire 3 or 4 foot snake down in one sitting in just a couple of minutes. That is amazing. Gosh, these cameras are just absolutely incredible. Had a viciously curved beak, that. Used for tearing chunks of meat off, actually. You can see that bright yellow eye. Very proud of itself. Well done, big eye. Goodness me. I don't think I've ever seen a sighting like that, actually. I mean, you see them flying around the snakes. You see them sometimes trying to swallow the last little bit of snake down, but you don't see them with the whole snake. We basically didn't see him catch the snake. Wow. What a great meal for this bird. Cleaning off his face. Didn't look like the snake was thick enough to be a spitting cobra or a python or a puff adder. It wasn't thin enough to be one of the sand snakes. Not the right time of the day for any of the nocturnal snakes. I want to say that it was either a boomslang then or a mamba that met its end there. Both, if it was one of those two, highly venomous snakes. Both with a reputation for having, both with their own reputations. The boomslang having the more potent venom, but but with a calmer demeanor, and the black mamba having the more aggressive demeanor, more deadly of the two, but with a venom that's quite easily capable of killing a full-grown man. This bird doesn't seem to be phased in the least. Gobbled that entire snake down. Didn't take its time to eat it. I think it's mainly as a it's a it's often when you bolt when animals bolt food down like that, it's because they expect the food to be taken away from them by another predator or scavenger in some form or another. This bird's digestive system and gizzard obviously quite capable of dealing with snakes like that. Can have some powerful muscles in its gizzard trying to work that snake into a mush that the digestive system can deal with, and then obviously, I'm assuming the acids inside that bird's tummy to deal with entire prey like this is going to be significant. I don't know enough about bird physiology to be able to tell you whether or not this bird will how long it keeps food like that in its digestive system for. I'm gonna make some space. Show you now. That was its last snake meal. That's what it looks like when it comes out the other end. And if it had babies, it would often carry the prey to the babies, tearing off chunks and feeding it to the babies. I don't think that this bird will regurgitate that whole snake for a youngster. Gosh, what a sighting. Easily the sighting of the day. I mean, in spite of the fact that we've seen some incredible things today. Of the elephant swimming. Cool, gives us a great view of the foot structure of this eagle. So true eagles have feathers all the way down to the bottom of their feet. The snake eagles do not, and it's because they use their feet to kick at the snakes. And so they club the snakes to death basically, and then use that massively hooked, sharp beak there to rip into the head and disable the snake's primary defensive mechanism, which would be obviously biting at the bird and trying to envenomate it. The bird will use the feathers on its wings and its feet to avoid being bitten, pouncing on the head, holding it down, and then ripping into it with that sharp beak before swallowing it down. As you can see, and that crop of that bird is jam-packed. I doubt we'll see it fly off. I mean, I might be wrong, but giving its beak a clean. Yes, we totally lucked out with that sighting. Goodness me. So for those of you just joining, we've just watched this brown snake eagle swallow, 3-4 feet of fairly large snake. I would say that knowing how big that bird is, this bird probably stands knee high on a full grown adult, 6 foot high, so a fairly large eagle, and that snake was easily double that length. 4 feet of snake easily, and just gulp it down without even batting an eyelid. Steve D, you've asked the question of the day. How often will it require a meal of that size? I don't actually know, Steve D. I'm trying my best to try and figure that out while I'm busy speaking to you. Look, generally speaking, birds will need to eat every day the same as humans do. But it's not like that in the wild. Is that you do go through times when you have an abundance of food, and you go through times when you don't, and food is very scarce. The fact that we're seeing this bird eating now, it doesn't mean that it won't catch another snake. Relatively soon. The bush is really open, and it's starting to warm up, and so we're starting to see snakes move around without cover that summer would provide. And so I would imagine that this is the time of year when these birds are eating more frequently than at other times of the year. And so I think once the gizzard is empty and the snake has moved through the first part of the digestive system, that there's nothing stopping this bird from catching another snake in a day or two. The question that I've been trying to ask myself is, how long does a bird like this take to digest an entire snake? Obviously, if it had bitten off small chunks like we do, and like a lion does, for instance, digestion happens much quicker on smaller pieces of food. But that bird just swallowed that whole snake, and a snake's got scales, and those scales are made of keratin, and keratin's a difficult thing to digest. So I'm assuming that this eagle has a very powerful digestive system. And so I don't actually know, Steve D. It's a good question that you asked me that. So provided that this bird isn't too full and too heavy to fly, birds of prey like this have a weight range that is quite small, from being too skinny to actually have the energy to fly around and hunt, and too full to want to fly around. So while they're lazy, there's a narrow window there that they operate in. I'm expecting that if this bird doesn't stay here in this tree, he'll stay nearby and not do much for the next couple of hours, days, the next day or two at least. But given that the snake is broken down relatively quickly in the digestive system, I mean, it is a carnivore. Gosh, they're giving us a great view here. It is a carnivore, and of course carnivores digest meat a lot faster than what herbivores do, because the bacterial load on meat is much higher, and so meat rots in your system. And so carnivores, when they digest stuff like this, they digest it pretty quickly. Very strong tummy acids. I don't know if there are any of you out there that keep eagles as pets. Let me know. Let us know. Please send your feedback through. Go and register on WildEarth at the website and let us know. I'd love to know how quickly these birds digest a full meal like that. Right, why don't we leave this bird to do what it needs to do and go and have a look at a camera that I haven't had a look at all since starting here. So let's go over to Tembo Plains. Gosh, look at that. So this is African's camera up in Tembo Plains, Zimbabwe. So we've now crossed north out of South Africa into Zimbabwe. And we're having a look at a very wide body of water with a lot of elephant. Are those elephant or are those hippo? They're hippo. Gosh. Call myself a field guide when I can't even tell the difference between elephant and hippo. So there's a pod of hippo that have come out of the water. Not uncommon in the cooler times of the year to see hippo come out and suntan on these beaches. What struck me, as I suppose we've been looking at elephants for so many days, but when I didn't see any ears or trunks flapping around, the alarm bells went on. What a great place. Goodness me. Hippo are mainly nocturnal and are grass eaters. They're bulk feeders like warthog and elephant and zebra are. And they live in these pods, bunch of breeding females, calves, subadult males, and then one big male. In the driest times of the year, they do congregate into pools where you find rival bulls fighting with each other quite viciously. And then at night time, they'll come out and they'll separate out. The bulls do their thing, and females with calves do theirs. And they walk quite far, up to 30 kilometers in an evening to go and feed. And you can see close by the water's edge, it's actually the hippo that keep these lawns short like this. So this is what we call a hippo lawn. And they would have come out of the water to suntan and just stay warm. They're a contact species. Nice together. Really nice sighting, gosh.
Chatting around a fire is an ancient practice that has connected humanity for centuries, and we want to keep it alive in our modern age. As an explorer, you'll have access to intimate gatherings with our naturalists, fascinating guests, and experts where we share knowledge, insights, and stories around a crackling fire. Rediscover the power of connection. Sign up to be an explorer today and experience the magic of WildEarth's Fireside Chats.
This is one of our very first times to come down to Africam's Timber Plains camp. This is on one of Great Plains Conservancy's wonderful conservation areas. This is now in Zimbabwe, but right up in the north of Zimbabwe, that river that you're seeing in the background there is the Zambezi. And so the country that we're in now is Zimbabwe, and on the opposite bank, the country is Zambia. And we're looking at a small flock of southern ground hornbill, one of the most critically endangered birds on the continent. And in the background there's a pod of hippos that are looking in on them. Very similar to that brown snake eagle that we had a look at. Now, these birds also have a fearsome reputation for killing snakes and tortoises and any number of things. They are carnivorous and using those massive beaks of theirs to peck and stab at things, from mice to frogs to tortoises to lizards, snakes, small rabbits and hares. I mean, their diet is actually incredible. Their numbers are so low because of habitat destruction. They only have chicks, one chick at a time, and they only have them very infrequently. I think they only have them every 9 years or so. And with the loss of large African trees, they're not able to bring up babies as successfully as what they used to, and so there's a massive conservation effort to try and save them. And being large birds of prey, they do stay active. And you'll see, just watching them, they almost always uncover some interesting little morsel. That is a very much more common Egyptian goose. And there we go. There's the southern ground hornbill, and it's being mobbed by what looks to be some other type of the bird was mobbing it. I mean, it would. There's some lapwings that live on these grassy plains, and these southern ground hornbills would absolutely snap up a chick or eat an egg that they found. And I thought what was happening was it was being bombed by one of the parents of these lapwings, but it just looks like it was flying around.
Discover the wonders of the wild with Safari Snaps, Africam's fun community game. While enjoying the live streams, simply tag the animal you spot. Each tag earns you points based on the rarity of the species. The rarer, the more points you score. Your profile and the Safari Snaps leaderboard will keep track of your impressive tagging skills. Join us on Safari Snaps and let's celebrate the wonders of African wildlife together.
There's an initiative in Africa where they will harvest the second egg that these birds produce. They're very similar to eagles. They'll only really bring up one chick, the strongest of the two. And it's because they're large birds and it takes a very long time to bring up a bird, to bring up a chick. And so humans, realizing how vulnerable these birds are, start harvesting the second egg or the weaker of the two chicks. And then using animal husbandry techniques that have been refined over many years, will then bring up into adulthood these chicks before releasing them into flocks made up of similarly hand-reared birds. And the result is that these birds are being looked after. And so through concerted efforts like this, will hopefully remain safe from extinction. A very important bird species we're looking at here. Such a great view. For those of you just joining us, firstly, welcome. Secondly, we are at African Timber Plains, which is in Zimbabwe, obviously, from the writing at the top left-hand side. The river that you're looking at, though, is the Zambezi River, so we're right in the boundary between Zimbabwe and Zambia. And it is the same river that Victoria Falls lies on, one of the 7 natural wonders of the world. And is really a true epic wilderness. This river is just one of those mighty African rivers that have had stories written about it for generations. What we're looking at here is a small flock, a breeding flock of southern ground hornbill with a chick. You know that the one is a chick because you can see the grey face, as opposed to the adult on the right, which has got the red skin on the face. And these birds are considered vulnerable to extinction across their range, mainly through habitat destruction, but they also are shot for sport. They are a fairly rare bird, and so the pet trade is lucrative for them as well. And because their numbers are dwindling due to human activity, humans have set up some fantastic conservation efforts to save them. Andrew, it's my absolute pleasure. I didn't even realize that we were coming to the end of the show, and I really appreciate your words. Thank you very much. Gosh, these 3 hours, I tell you, they go by in a flash. So, and I suppose we've got 2 minutes or so left of the show. And exciting stuff today. When we, for me, seeing a new Canberra, this is Timber Plains, and, right off the bat, a whole huge herd of hippo and some southern ground hornbill on the banks of the Zambezi, and it's just given me such a feel-good feeling looking at the Zambezi River. I miss it so much. And hopefully we'll come and see other exciting things here. These ground hornbills are pecking through some elephant dung looking for insects and beetle larvae. We've had an amazing day of elephants today, swimming and doing all sorts of stuff. And then some very rare sightings. We'll watch the brown snake eagle swallow 4 feet of snake in about a minute or two. So yeah, I just want to say thank you. Thank you to all of you out there that put your eyes on the screen today. Thank you for all of you who participated in the questions and comments. It's really super great to be able to present to you and host the show like we did today. All the behind the scenes WildEarth staff, love you guys, man. You guys are superstars. And then to all the partners and every one of you that donates and keeps the show going, I just want to say thank you to all of you as well. Just massive gratitude and thanks to everybody today. I hope wherever you are, you're enjoying your Sunday and that your weekend has been good. Looking forward to whatever next week brings, right? Such a great view of these birds. Can't yet see if it's mom and baby or dad and baby, but it's definitely one of the parents and the baby. Stalking across the plains. Stay safe. Goodbye. See you soon.